Hey everyone, Nathan Hayes here, IDOC Practice Finance Consultant with the question of the week. And this week, I've got a lot of questions about buying another location or starting one. But what about going multi-site? What's the benefit to it? What's the risk? So I want to give just a couple of thoughts, pros and cons of doing it. So a lot of people come at it with the idea that if I have multiple locations, I'm more valuable, I'll be bigger. Private equity seems to like roll-ups of larger groups of locations. All is true. But let's think about why being multi-site makes you more valuable to private equity, why private equity groups with 100 locations are worth more than a single location private practice. And the reason is very simply that you're distributing risk. So if I have 100 offices and one of them goes belly up, I still have 99 that still work more than likely. So if you have more offices, you do distribute the risk of the practice, and so you are more valuable for that reason. And particularly if you're in a rural area, going multi-site may be the only way to grow your patient base, that you've absorbed everyone in your area right now. And so you need to go out and find other groups of patients to serve to continue growing your practice, grow your revenues, grow your profits, and again, continues to grow the business and expand. Also in urban settings, oftentimes you need multiple smaller locations because it's very difficult to get one big parcel to practice in. So urban practices often need to go multi-site to grow. So that's kind of the benefits of doing it. What are the risks? Obviously, if you go multi-site, you're going to add complexity. So you cannot be in 2 places at once as much as you'd like to. And many of us like to be in 5 places at once between hanging out with our spouse and being with our kids and monitoring our kids, being at work, etc. So you will need more management depth if you go multi-site. And that's one of the things I've seen really, I don't want to say crush, but it's been a real struggle for some owners that go multi-site is I didn't build up my management team, and now I have the weight of multiple locations and more staff and more people and more patients on my shoulders. It's really difficult for many of them. Some thoughts for you if you're thinking about it. One, and this is true of private equity, I think the rules hold for most private practices. You need, if you're going to buy a satellite office, it really needs to be at least $750,000 in revenue, maybe $800,000 or more. And why is that? Well, if you have, let's just take $800,000 practice netting 30% to the doctors, you're probably going to need an associate to work there. So if you buy an $800,000 practice, let's say you pay $600,000 for it, that's going to be $72,000 a year on the net. So we'll take our $240,000, 30% a year net, which is 30% of 800,000, less 72. Now we're at 168 net. Now we've got to pay an associate, maybe for 4 days a week. That's $90,000. Now we're at 88,000. You can see where you need scale if you're going to be an investor in a satellite to really make money at it. And so scale matters quite a lot in these, and that's why, again, private equity prefers practices over $1 million in revenue. There needs to be cash flow left to justify the investment. And please, 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 unless you have a plan to grow it quickly, do not just buy a smaller practice where you're going to have cash flow and just say, we'll figure it out. It doesn't really, your practice, even with multi-sites, is going to be bought based on the cash flow, not the revenue. So if you're not making money on it, all it does is add complexity and headaches without increasing your income personally. So make sure it's the right size. Consider whether or not you couldn't just roll it into your own practice. So I'm not crazy about a $300,000 satellite office in most cases. If it's a really lean rural practice and it's cash flowing already, okay, maybe if it's a project you want to take on and you've got the cash flow in your existing office, fine. But consider whether or not you could just bring it into your current office and grow it. Because if you can grow your current office with the current space and staff and equipment by $300,000 overnight for $100,000 on an acquisition price, sure, I'd do that all day. Makes a ton of sense. And you can pay the owner to stay on and help out a couple days a week. Mergers make a lot more sense if you have enough space than just buying a satellite. You might also do it, especially in those cases where it's someone nearby. I would be a little aggressive, try to roll it up into your office just to block a competitor from coming in. I think it's worth considering that's something that you would do. Bottom line, or most important thing, and we'll close out this quick question of the week. Know your goals. Owners, you need to have goals based on Your personal income, you have goals based on how much time you want to spend working on your practice, because there are other things you want to do. You have goals based on the stress level you want for your practice. You have goals based on your long-term wealth building. And again, maybe buying another office helps you get to that long-term wealth building goal and the value of the business. But remember, never forget that along the way, the practice that provides you the right mix of cash flow or income, of time, of low stress is going to be more valuable anyway. So don't be afraid to be aggressive. Don't be afraid to block competition. By all means, give us a call. Love to talk to you about your opportunities. And just bear in mind that I'll never forget, I was talking to Dr. Greg Ossip, who had, I think, 30-something locations. He just sold to private equity. And he was talking to me about young doctors who have all these ideas of having 5, 6 locations. He said, man, I wouldn't go to another location until I've gotten my own office as big as possible. And I think there's some wisdom to that. Certainly be opportunistic. If something drops in your lap and you want to strike at it, let's do it. Timing does matter in these things. But by and large, if you ask me what I'd prefer, one $10 million location or 10 $1 million locations, that's easy. Give me the one $10 million location that we can have self-contained with one team and one site. And take the money out and build the wealth and let the chips fall where they may when you're done. But for sure, if you're going to do that, make sure that you've got your existing first practice in great shape. Make sure it's got enough cash flow to even perhaps subsidize an acquisition while it's still growing up under your leadership. Make sure that its management and processes are in place, because you are going to be distracted. You're going to take time away from your existing office, your golden goose, if you will, to work on a satellite. So I'm not saying no to buying new offices. We've certainly encouraged practice owners to do that, but it's to be done prudently, with forethought and care, and it can be a great opportunity to grow quickly, but it's risk, and that's the name of the game. You're putting risk on the table, and you'll either pay off in higher income and higher practice value down the line, or it'll just be more stress and maybe a little more income. So would love to talk to you about it. Always interesting opportunities. A lot of acquisitions going on right now, so everyone's thinking about it. But that's the question of the week. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.